It's a popular road for Saturdays, car shows, car clubs, motorcycle clubs, a lot of wrecks, unfortunately, but I hear them all weekend. I live over on the other side of the property up against Sage Canyon Road, so I hear these car clubs and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's fun to watch them. The whole Somerston estate is 1,682 acres, so we're about 9 miles east of St. Helena. It's actually considered the town of St. Helena, but 9 miles up Sage Canyon Road. So a lot of space out here, 1,682 acres, so we've got tons of different little microclimates, and we'll kind of get to some of that and some of the other questions, I'm sure, but 2 awesome distinct valleys throughout the property. We've got every slope and aspect that you can imagine, west facing, east facing, south, a couple of valley floor type vineyard blocks and all kinds of stuff. So it's a really diverse, cool property with many, many different microclimates being so large, 1,682 acres. Currently, I would have to check back at my software to see we're always pulling vineyards out and kind of trying to prioritize what we have out here and improve everything. So right now I think we're about 220 acres planted. Some of that stuff that you maybe drove by was a newer piece of the property, so that added like 60-something acres to the property. Those vineyards were good vineyards, so we made wine with them the first year, but again, those were vineyards that we kind of inherited from the person we bought it from. So we're always trying to improve, always trying to make every vineyard block exactly perfect, exactly the way that we want it. So we've since pulled that, since buying that property, pulled out those vineyards, and we're going to plant that next year. I've been with the company for a long time. I started in June of 2010, so I was one of the first employees with Somerston Priest Ranch, one of the founding employees, really. There's another one of us left, Melissa. She's in the tasting room. She's I think the only other, well, and Craig Becker, of course. He helped found the company. Before this winery was built, Somerston was custom crushing down at a different winery that I happened to work for, and so I've been dealing with the wines actually since 2009, officially on this property since 2010. Yeah, I met Craig and he kind of stole me away, and I've been here ever since. I got into wine back in Washington State. I'm originally from Washington State, the western side of the state, a little town called Belfair. So my ex-girlfriend's dad at the time, she owned a winery in a little town called Grapeview, which is a perfect town to have a winery in. So I was kind of messing around in that winery for a while and really fell in love with winemaking and kind of the science behind winemaking. So I figured if I'm going to get serious about this, I better move to Napa. So I moved to Napa, actually sight unseen. I'd never been here before. I kind of drove through once when I was like 19 years old and kind of missed it. I didn't really know where it was and drove through. I wasn't of drinking age anyway. So yeah, moved here sight unseen. I started working first at Hall Wines in St. Helena, and that is actually where I met Craig Becker. That's where he was making some of his wine there. So got an internship there in 2009. They ended up hiring me full-time, which was great in the cellar. And then moved over here to Somerston with Craig in 2010. I've been here ever since. So I just kind of worked my way up through the ranks. Cellar worker at first, up to cellar master, assistant winemaker, associate winemaker, and now winemaker. One thing that is kind of cool about that winemaking journey is, and being here specifically at Somerston, early on our winery was bigger than, basically we couldn't fill it up with the Somerston wine. So we had a lot of different winemakers in here. We did what's called custom crush. So that's wine labels, wine brands that don't have their own winery, that need a space to make their wine. They can make it at a place like Somerston. So we were custom crushing, and so I was able to learn from 10 or 11 different winemakers over the years, and I think that kind of led me to where I am now, being able to pick up what we liked, what worked with our fruit, what maybe didn't work with our fruit. So it was a pretty good experience. Most of your typical Bordeaux varietals, Cab heavy, of course. We do some Malbec, Cab Franc, Merlot, we just recently planted a Viognier. That's part of the vineyards out front that you were saying is replanted now. Some Zinfandel, Sauvignon Blanc, Grenache Blanc, which is kind of a rare varietal for this area. So we've made a Grenache Blanc for Priest Ranch for many years. We've recently pulled that vineyard out and replanted, so there's a little bit of a gap there in vintages, but we're hoping to get some for 2024 next year. So hopefully we'll get that back. What else? A little bit of Syrah. We do a Brut Rosé of Syrah, which is also kind of interesting. You know, not a lot of people are doing a Brut or sparkling wine with Syrah. So.
Not with Syrah, no.
Yeah, and it turns out great. It's we just released the 2019, so that's been aging on lees for a while now. So. Totally taste. So we kind of use chemistry as a guideline. We'll run the TA, the acid, pH, Brix, things like that. But those are really just guidelines. You know, once we get close, that means we really need to start getting out there every single day. So I'm on a quad every day, going to every single vineyard block that's approaching ripeness. So on a property like this, that takes all day, every day during harvest. So really our picking decisions is based on flavor and based on flavor on the vine at that time that day. So we very rarely will make a picking decision and say, we're going to, this fruit's really good, we're going to pick it next Wednesday. It's always, this fruit's good, it's 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. I would say one of the things that, and this is actually something that I've gotten many, many times, we could talk about these fires that have been kind of plaguing Napa for a little bit. 2017 and 2020, we lost all of our fruit and due to smoke damage. And one thing, anytime I tell people that the fruit was smoked, they say, well, what, couldn't you have made a smoky wine? That could be a big thing. And it's, I've heard that over and over again. And unfortunately, when you taste some of the fruit, some wines can really support it. And there were a lot of people that got their fruit picked before fires and things like that. So the vintage as a whole is not totally tainted. Here at Somerston, we weren't as fortunate, especially for 2020. The fires came kind of right through. So we had a lot of wine or a lot of fruit that was smoke tainted, and it's not as desirable as that smoked meat type of a flavor that you would get. So anyway, maybe that's the craziest winemaking advice is people talking about making smoked wine. Yeah. You can check out priestranchwines.com or somerstonestate.com.